In long-term relationships, it's natural for the frequency of physical intimacy to shift. When two people first come together, it's often marked by an all-consuming intensity. Passion ignites swiftly, with moments shared frequently and intensely. But as time progresses, this initial spark matures into something more grounded, transforming the experience into something more decadent, yet often less frequent. Sexual desire doesn't always diminish out of apathy or disinterest. It's a natural evolution that mirrors the progression of the relationship. Over time, emotional intimacy and everyday responsibilities often take precedence. This shift can feel unsettling, leaving partners wondering about the vitality of their bond. However, this change doesn't have to signal the end of physical closeness. Many women experience fluctuations in their desire for intimacy, influenced by many factors, from emotional connection to stress, health, or external influences like societal pressures and life transitions. Understanding what drives this shift can pave the way for meaningful solutions. Conversations about needs, preferences, and concerns open the door to deeper understanding. Whether finding new ways to connect emotionally or exploring new aspects of physical intimacy, the journey toward reigniting that closeness is ongoing. Ultimately, it's about fostering an environment where both partners feel valued, heard, and understood, creating a space where passion and intimacy can flourish, even in the most stable phases of a relationship. In today's video, let's find out why she stopped having sex and how we can solve this problem. Let's get started. First, let's discuss understanding why women want to have sex. Sex for women is not just about physical pleasure, but also an expression of emotional connection. It serves as a vessel for intimacy, a way to feel cherished and understood. While men may experience pleasure and intimacy simultaneously, for women, emotional fulfillment often precedes and underpins physical desire. The emotional intimacy that women seek is nourished by feeling desired, appreciated, and valued. When this is absent, the desire for sexual intimacy can dwindle. It is not merely about the act, but the emotional landscape surrounding it, the security, trust, and mutual understanding that make the experience meaningful. For many women, being pursued or wanted ignites a more profound sense of self-worth. This pursuit, however, must be rooted in mutual respect and understanding, free from the pressures of societal expectations or the idea that desire must always be reciprocated in the same manner. Furthermore, personal experiences and reflections reveal that when women feel their emotional needs are met, their capacity for intimacy grows stronger. Communication plays a pivotal role here. Expressing feelings, listening to each other, and validating emotions create a foundation upon which intimacy can flourish. In navigating the complexities of emotional intimacy, it is essential to recognize that each individual's journey is unique. Open dialogue and a genuine effort to understand one another's perspectives help bridge the emotional gaps, creating a more fulfilling and balanced relationship. Now let's analyze why she stopped having sex. Reason 1. Stress. Stress is one of the silent killers of intimacy, a thief that sneaks into relationships and leaves partners wondering where the spark has gone. Imagine this. Kayla, a 24-year-old college senior, found her relationship with her boyfriend strained under the weight of her responsibilities. Juggling a full course load, an internship demanding 20 hours a week, and double shifts at a bustling restaurant every weekend, her life became a whirlwind of deadlines and exhaustion. Time with her boyfriend, once cherished, dwindled to barely an hour each week. When they did manage to meet, she'd either drift off mid-movie or remain preoccupied with looming tasks. Intimacy became an afterthought. This scenario isn't unique. The pressures of modern life, work, family obligations, financial concerns, create a breeding ground for stress, quietly eroding physical and emotional connections. Stress occupies mental space, leaving little room for passion or relaxation. When the mind is entangled in worries, the body struggles to respond to affection, turning once vibrant moments into hollow routines. However, this doesn't have to be the end of the story. Recognizing stress as the culprit is the first step toward reclaiming intimacy. Open communication between partners can serve as a lifeline. A heartfelt conversation about priorities and feelings can bridge the emotional gap stress creates. For instance, carving out dedicated time to reconnect through shared hobbies, simple dinners, or even just talking without distractions can rekindle the flame. But it's not just about time management, it's about redefining priorities. When couples choose to prioritize their relationship, they take the first steps toward healing. This might mean saying no to extra work shifts, simplifying schedules, or finding ways to decompress together, like exercising or practicing mindfulness. These small but deliberate choices can transform how couples navigate stress, creating a sanctuary within their relationship. Every couple faces challenges, but those who recognize the impact of stress and commit to overcoming it together often find their bond grows stronger. By addressing the underlying issues and actively nurturing their connection, they rediscover the joy of intimacy, even in life's busiest seasons. Reason 2. Feeling taken for granted. After being with him for a year, things started to feel different, says Grace, 32 years old. June is a social worker in private practice, working in not-profit medicine. At the beginning, it was passionate, exciting, like we couldn't keep our hands off each other. But somewhere along the way, it changed. We fell into a routine that became more about convenience than desire. I noticed he wasn't pursuing me the way he used to. It felt like he assumed I'd always be available and the one to keep things alive. But he wasn't making any effort to ignite that spark anymore. Slowly, I stopped feeling desired. In relationships, it's easy to fall into a pattern where intimacy becomes expected rather than earned. What starts as a connection based on mutual excitement can become habitual, leaving both parties questioning whether the passion is still there. Relationship dynamics shift when one partner begins taking the other for granted, and the emotional toll can be profound. If something has gone sour, sex is not a chore, it's an expression of connection and intimacy, says an anonymous source. When men stop making an effort to nurture that connection, whether through simple gestures or deeper emotional engagement, it becomes easy for a partner to withdraw emotionally and physically. Sometimes the signs are subtle: an absence of affection, missed opportunities for deeper conversations, or a gradual lack of spontaneity. These moments might seem small, but they accumulate, creating a chasm where emotional and physical intimacy once thrived. Building a relationship is like tending a garden, says someone close. You can't expect the flowers to bloom without care and attention. The garden starts to wither when you take your partner for granted. Men often forget the effort it took to win their partner's heart in the first place. The pursuit, the playful teasing, the small surprises, the attempt to understand keeps the bond alive. Intimacy can become stale, and the relationship loses its vibrancy. This doesn't mean constant grand gestures are required. Sometimes the most minor things, checking in, a thoughtful conversation, or simply listening, can reignite the spark. The key is recognizing when your actions have become routine and consciously changing them. Emotional distances widen in relationships where communication wanes and expectations precede efforts. Grace's story reminds us that while comfort is necessary, a balance between comfort and passion is essential. When either side feels undervalued, the natural outcome is disconnection. In those small, intentional moments, relationships find their strength. A commitment to understanding and nurturing one another, both physically and emotionally. Reason 3. A lack of communication. In the quiet moments when intimacy fades, questions arise about what drives the connection apart. For many women, stopping intimate encounters is not just about the physical act, but rather the emotional state that precedes it. For Laura, 26, it was the emotional disconnection that led to the end of her sexual relationship. My ex was a lawyer with a demanding schedule, and it felt like we were living parallel lives, she says. He was private, never really shared much about his day, and as work consumed him, our conversations dwindled. When we did engage in intimacy, I felt like I was with a stranger. That feeling of disconnection was too overwhelming. In relationships, sex serves as a reflection of emotional intimacy, a mirror reflecting the health of the emotional bond between partners. When communication is absent or misunderstandings build up, the emotional foundation weakens, leaving intimacy as a distant memory rather than a present reality. Communication is often seen as the bridge to understanding. However, it's not always easy to navigate. Issues like stress, expectations, or emotional turmoil can create barriers that seem insurmountable. Yet, when individuals take the time to open up, the walls start to crumble. I believe that when we stop communicating openly, we inadvertently create distance. A woman named Maria shares, "We might assume that silence is easier, but it often leads to isolation." Whether asking simple questions like, "How was your day?" or delving deeper into emotions like fear or vulnerability, every conversation can strengthen emotional ties. It's not just about seeking answers, but creating a space where both individuals feel heard and understood. Sometimes healing begins with small steps. Being vulnerable, even when it feels uncomfortable, is necessary, says Anna. It's the first step toward creating a safe space to rebuild intimacy. Intimacy often follows through shared moments of laughter, listening, and patience. Couples can overcome the barriers that separate them by addressing underlying emotional issues. The key lies in being willing to bridge the gap, not only between bodies, but between hearts. Reason 4. Not having the type of sex she wants. With the last man I seriously dated, we waited a while before we even had sex, Julie, 25, shares. The initial months were fine. We had built up so much tension that everything felt new and exciting. But once that tension faded, I realized it wasn't fulfilling anymore. He was younger than I was, and sex with him felt mechanical, like a performance rather than an intimate connection. I suggested we slow down and explore other aspects, but nothing seemed to shift. I often went home feeling unsatisfied, and eventually I began making excuses to avoid being intimate. We drifted apart, and things came to an end. No one wants to hear they aren't fulfilling their partner in bed, but ignoring the issue can lead to incredible frustration for both sides. The truth is, many men base their understanding of sex on unrealistic expectations formed from porn and media portrayals, leaving little room for genuine, emotionally connected intimacy. It's easy to fall into patterns where one partner feels unheard, leaving them to disengage emotionally and physically. When women stop getting the sex they genuinely want, their willingness declines, and men often respond by becoming more insistent or frustrated, which only perpetuates the cycle. So, what can be done to break this cycle? Open communication is essential. Asking tough questions and being willing to hear honest feedback from your partner requires vulnerability, but it paves the way for understanding and mutual satisfaction. It's about moving beyond ego and embracing the nuances of shared intimacy. Ultimately, sex should be more than just an act. It's about connection, empathy, and respect. By fostering deeper conversations, both partners can create a space where desires are acknowledged and needs are met authentically. Reason 5. Pure boredom. Boredom. Sex was never about the act itself. It was about the connection. Yet somewhere along the way, that connection began to fade for Allison. At 30, her love life had become a monotonous routine, a predictable script that left her yearning for more. It wasn't because the sex was bad, Allison explains. We did it the same way every time, and it became predictable. Anytime I'd try to introduce something new, we'd end up back in our same old routine. She remembers one particular night, a special occasion. Staying at her parents' house the night before her sister's wedding, Allison hoped to feel that spark again, the excitement of a different setting. The nostalgic pull of her teenage bedroom should have reignited something in her. Yet, even with that fresh environment, the result was the same. Her partner's reluctance and the fear of disturbing others left her feeling unheard and unseen. This story is a reminder that familiarity, while comforting, can become suffocating. The passion and intimacy that once defined them can slip unnoticed when relationships become predictable. Research shows that variety is essential for sustaining emotional and physical intimacy. When partners fall into monotonous patterns, the emotional connection diminishes, leaving room for dissatisfaction and stagnation. It's not about seeking something extreme, like visiting a BDSM club or experimenting with swinging. Small changes can reignite the spark. Try something new, whether lingering kisses, exploring touch differently, or simply changing the setting. Communication becomes crucial. Asking what feels good and sharing desires openly can transform a stale relationship into a vibrant one. If your relationship feels stagnant, it's time to pause, reflect, and introduce change. Relationships thrive on growth. Sometimes that comes from stepping out of our emotional and physical comfort zones. Signs she's satisfied. Understanding a woman's satisfaction in a relationship can be nuanced, but there are subtle signs that often speak volumes. These indicators can shed light on the depth of connection you share, whether emotional or physical. Sexual satisfaction often mirrors deeper emotional intimacy. A woman who feels safe and appreciated tends to initiate and engage more openly. This doesn't just mean leading the charge in the bedroom, but also fostering a dynamic where she feels empowered to express her desires and feelings. One key aspect to observe is how she reacts post-coitus. Sex, in many ways, serves as a bridge to emotional and physical well-being. During intimacy, a woman's body experiences chemical changes that can significantly influence her mood. Increased oxytocin levels post-orgasm contribute to a heightened sense of relaxation and satisfaction, creating a nurturing environment for emotional closeness. Yet physical signs can be equally telling. Beyond the obvious, attention to her comfort level is paramount. It reflects her overall satisfaction if she is at ease, free from stress, and able to relax fully. Dr. Tina B. Tessina explains that a woman's body and her subtle or obvious responses contribute to this understanding. For instance, her nipples, while a sign of arousal, should be approached with care. Paying too much attention might inadvertently cause discomfort. Another crucial indicator is communication. Open dialogue remains one of the most effective tools for understanding and addressing needs. Sometimes, the most straightforward approach is asking directly how she feels. A willingness to discuss matters openly deepens the emotional bond and clears misconceptions. Ultimately, satisfaction in a relationship is a dance, a balance between emotional support, physical connection, and mutual respect. Observing, listening, and engaging with sensitivity can create a more fulfilling and satisfying connection. Understanding the sexual desire spectrum. It's essential to recognize that not all women experience emotions similarly, and there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to emotional intimacy and connection. Some women may feel deeply connected emotionally, but may not experience sexual desire, while others may have emotions and desires are not linear, reflects a seasoned observer of human connections. One common misconception is that emotional closeness must directly translate into sexual attraction. However, for some women, emotional intimacy can exist independently of sexual desire. This can stem from personal values, cultural influences, or past experiences that shape how they view intimacy. Similarly, some feel sexual attraction only after a deep emotional bond has been formed. These women may identify with a demisexual orientation, where sexual desire emerges only after men. Moreover, the presence of trauma, whether from early experiences or relationship dynamics, can alter how emotions and desires are perceived. For some, past wounds require careful navigation and healing before any form of emotional or sexual intimacy can be embraced. It's important to remember that these variations are natural and valid. What may seem perplexing at first can often lead to more prosperous, more fulfilling connections when understood through personal experience and respect for individual boundaries. In relationships, creating space for honest conversations around emotions and desires allows both partners to understand better and support one another. By doing so, the complexities of human emotions can be met with empathy and understanding, fostering deeper connections that transcend mere surface-level expectations. Other factors that impact female sex drive. As women navigate the stages of relationships, their desires evolve beyond physical attraction to a profound need for emotional closeness. This emotional depth fuels a woman's desire for physical intimacy, where trust and vulnerability create a fertile ground for connection. When discussing how emotional intimacy shapes desire, it's essential to understand that setting the right mood plays a crucial role. A woman's desire for sex isn't simply about the physical act itself. It's influenced by the atmosphere, trust, and psychological comfort she feels. Considering the mental and physical environment, a thoughtful approach helps bridge the gap between desire and connection. For instance, safety, stress reduction, and understanding are pivotal in cultivating a space where intimacy can thrive. Women seek a partner who understands these nuances, creating a balance between emotional security and physical attraction. Moreover, breaches of trust, like infidelity, can be deeply damaging. When a woman discovers betrayal, her sense of safety and emotional stability can erode, leading to a diminished desire for sexual intimacy. In these moments, rebuilding trust becomes essential. Engaging in honest communication, expressing remorse, and actively working toward emotional repair allows for the restoration of intimacy that can lead to healthier sexual relationships. Ultimately, the foundation of a woman's desire lies in physical connection and emotional understanding. Acknowledging and respecting these emotional needs cultivates a space where both partners feel valued and connected, paving the way for a more fulfilling and balanced relationship.